Well, I'm a Tolkien fan, and I started reading the books since the age of 12, 13. Lord of the Rings was the first one, then Hobbit, then Silmarillion, and then Leaf by Nichols, so many of his books. And so that's kind of grown into me, and it's actually shaped me somehow of the storyteller who I am, kind of trying to tell stories of outsiders, telling stories about different worlds, and kind of finding a home is a theme that I often have in my films. And then the second thing was just that I thought I just did a biopic earlier. I thought I'm going to do a biopic in a while, and I kind of were like hesitant about it. But I opened the story and found out how cinematic it is. The beautiful story of friendship and love, and he actually experienced so many elements in his own life that are in the books, and it's epic in an emotional scale. And after that, it just felt that it has to be done.
So it really, like when you read the script, it really jumped out straight at you, and you could see quite clearly what you wanted to do.
Yes, and I mean, we then wrote several drafts and rewrote and kind of shaped and added fantasy and did elements into it. But the core story of Tolkien, the core story that was in that first script that I read, is very beautiful. It's very empathic, and it's very poetic. And I cried the first time I read it, and then we just developed it into what it now is. I think because it builds who the Tolkien who we know is. So if I look at an interview that's done about him in the 60s by, and a TV interview, he's the older man looking his past, and there's a certain peace and wisdom in it. But to achieve that peace and wisdom, you've had to experience the turmoil that he did as a young man. The feelings of World War I, going with your friends into war, which is so essential. Basically the story, the battle between good and evil. So many elements that are so essential in his mythologies. So for us to see and understand mythologies, or his mythologies, or his character, this is the story, this is what built him. And that's why it's so essential, the time frame. I think what's beautiful about it's an eternal love story. It's eternal because Edith inspired Luthien, then inspired so many Elven ladies. And as the story, as it's depicted in the film, is first finding a friend. They're both orphans. They're both trying to find a home. They're trying to find belonging, and they find that belonging with each other. And it first grows into friendship, then it grows into love, then it's a forbidden love story, and then it becomes eternal love story. I think it feels weird that this story existed because it feels it's written for a movie. It's just like it almost like feels you can't invent that. If I would write that story, people would doubt, well, that's a bit too much. It's a bit too much movie-like. But here it's like it's actually happened in that whole epic essence. Well, I was an outsider also as a young man. I was bullied, and I grew up with a father that I got to know in a later life, late teens. And friends became vital and like maniacally important for me. And Tolkien had that. He wanted to form clubs. You kind of heal your outsider you with friends and the importance of them. And in this case, especially when he found friends that thought alike. They were very sensitive. They were artists in a patriarchal society. It's not toxic masculinity. It's supporting you and accepting you who you are. I think that's the ultimate and the beauty of friendship at its best. And then I said the tragic story of going to war with these people. Well, I just seen a couple of his films earlier. Like I remember a Sandcastle, kind of Netflix film, and Fox Searchlight had just worked with on The Favorite, which I heard good stories of. They said he's amazing in it, and it kind of felt like okay, he was the first kind of top of my list and top of everybody's list. And then I met him, and the script wasn't yet there, which like I felt like this is not yet the script I want to show him. So I didn't show them the script, which of course a bit weird because usually you read the script, you discuss about the script. I just wanted to talk to him. And we spent an hour and a half debating, discussing about life. And he has this intellect and wittiness, and he's very fast, but he's also warm and playful. And you feel these were all characteristics that I read from Tolkien. And then seeing his films, knowing his scale from Mad Max to, very, very comic setting, comic things also. And you know, okay, it's after that it felt like it has to be him. It just has to be him. And then we started fighting how we can get him from X-Men to fly over X-Men and to do this film. Well, I was auditioning different actresses at that time, and I was in England. I was doing location scouting. Lily lives in Los Angeles, so I had to Skype with her. And then there's this warmth, this explosion. Usually when you're in a Skype, it kind of distances you a bit above the person. There's kind of there's a glass wall, there's a concrete wall between you, but there's this explosive warmth about her that I felt that's Edith. That has been like, I was when I was 12 or 13, my first crush was an elven lady. It was Arwen, then there's Luthien. You have this elven lady in your mind. You want to be the wizard or you want to be the hero, but then you also want to fall in love with the elven princess. And then like Edith just embodies that. And then you watch Lily, who just embodies that. And you just knew that this is my elven princess.